It is Monday, March 9th. Welcome to the show. Major updates coming out of Iran this morning. President Trump stating the war with Iran is nearing its end. They have no navy, no communications. They've got no air force left. Now, the original U.S. operational goals were to destroy Iran's navy, check, their ballistic missile production, their ballistic missile capacity, and the nuclear threat, which means it's not over yet. But tons of speculation around how Trump plans to end this war, around seizing Iran's oil, removing the lifeblood of this regime. Is that possible? Yes, it is. And we have an update, another update on the Save America Act. Pressure mounting in the U.S. Senate to get this done, to invoke the talking filibuster. We are close. But let's start with the war in Iran.
I'll be watching. The president's going to hold a news conference just a short time from now. It's going to get started at 5:30 from Doral, Florida this evening. In the meantime, he has done some phone interviews with several outlets, most recently talking to CBS News's White House reporter, I should say. And in that interview with Wei Zhejiang, he said, I think the war is very complete, pretty much. They have no navy, no communications. They've got no air force. He added that the U.S. is, quote, very far ahead.
So it is day 10 of the U.S.-Iran war. The Islamic Republic of Iran choosing their next supreme leader yesterday, the son of former supreme leader Khamenei, someone who President Trump says is unacceptable. And moments ago, reports surfacing that he too, the son, the current supreme leader, Mojtaba Khamenei, has been severely injured, that one of his legs had to be amputated. This is breaking in real time. It's still unconfirmed, but what's clear is this guy's days are numbered. He's been supreme leader for a day. Nothing will change in Iran if he remains in the seat of power. That being said, major developments in the U.S.'s exit strategy with Iran. It's easy to get dragged in. It's very easy to start a war, extremely difficult to end them. Even for Donald Trump, for any president, you go in with plans to achieve victory, to win unconditionally. It's not hard to imagine a scenario where the U.S. destroys Iran's organized military, but the fighting doesn't stop. Their command and control structure may be gone, but the remnants of the regime, the IRGC, the militias, remain. It wouldn't be a surprise to see what's left launch an insurgency that just continues to fight. The same thing we saw in Afghanistan. We were there for 20 years. We were winning for 20 years, and the fighting never stopped. So the U.S. clearly winning, like we are now, but an unconditional surrender never comes. President Trump clearly aware of this possibility, this being a likely outcome, which brings us to Karg Island, Iran's primary oil export terminal, a 7.5 square mile island, very small, housing 8,000 people who process and handle 94% of the country's crude oil exports. 9 out of 10 oil tankers leaving Iran are filled at Karg Island. This is where Iran's super tankers go to fill up. Pipelines connect from Karg Island to Iranian oil fields back on the mainland. It's a massive, massive piece of infrastructure, but a single point of failure for the regime. Without Karg Island, the regime collapses. And interestingly, President Trump is very well aware of this. The Telegraph reporting this morning that the tiny island that could let Trump beat Iran without sending a single troop, the U.S. president has long seen Karg Island as the Islamic Republic's weak spot. Seizing it will let him control their oil and their finances. Colin Freeman pulling up this old transcript of an interview Trump gave back in 1988, 40 years ago, when Trump wasn't a politician, wasn't president, was just a real estate mogul. Trump telling The Guardian, again, 40 years ago, that one day, he says, he will win back respect for America on the world stage, saying that Iran's been beating us psychologically, making us look like a bunch of fools. One bullet shot at one of our men or ships, and I'd do a number on Karg Island. I'd go in and take it. That's what Trump said in 1988 about Iran. 40 years later, it's a pretty prescient statement.
This is a long-term gain because what we want to do is get such massive oil reserves in Iran out of the hands of terrorists. And so what we're going to experience here in the short term is highly outweighed of the long-term benefit, because ultimately we're not going to have to worry about these issues in the Strait of Hormuz because we're going to get all of the oil out of the hands of terrorists.
Here's Kharg Island, a tiny piece of land 15 miles off the west coast of Iran, less than half the size of Manhattan, where again, 94% of the crude it sells abroad is loaded on supertankers there, mostly bound for China. Thus far, the US and Israel, they haven't touched Kharg Island. Israel's been bombing fuel depots near Tehran, but Kharg Island's untouched. There's a ton of speculation now that the core goal of Operation Epic Fury this whole time is to seize the island intact, cutting off the Islamic Republic of Iran's capacity to export its oil and lose the ability to bankroll its security forces. Doing so would give Trump a stranglehold on the regime. It would be instant victory and would let Trump say, mission accomplished. Now, you may ask, well, wouldn't Iran just start lobbing missiles at Kharg Island? If the U.S. is there, if they control it, well, if they do, they risk destroying their cash cow. It's more likely what would happen, we would see a deal most likely, just like with Venezuela, where the U.S. controls their oil exports. The revenue from those sales would then go into a U.S. bank account, which is then sent to Iran for approved expenditures, maintaining critical infrastructure, payrolls, but no funding terror, no funding missile cities or drone production or nuclear weapons. That could very well be the endgame here, as a complete public unconditional surrender is likely not in the cards. As Secretary of War Pete Hegseth said yesterday, the regime's pride will likely never admit it publicly. Meanwhile, back stateside, pressure is mounting on the Senate GOP to finally commit to a talking filibuster and pass the Save America Act. This morning, Leader Thune addressing the Senate chamber and saying tens of thousands of DHS employees are going without pay and critical DHS priorities are going unfunded. Yes, Democrats still refusing to fund the Department of Homeland Security. While we're in a war with Iran, while ISIS terrorists are attacking protests in New York City this weekend, and Dems are playing politics with DHS. Thune now discussing plans to use the talking filibuster to go around Schumer and force a vote on DHS funding. President Trump, though, pushing Senate Republicans to focus on the Save America Act, pass the Save America Act. This weekend, Trump posting the U.S. Senate should focus on exclusively, if necessary, the Save America Act. It's what everyone wants. Then this morning, following up and posting the Save America Act, number 1, all voters must show voter ID. Number 2, all voters must show proof of citizenship in order to vote. Number 3, no mail-in ballots except for illness, disability, military, or travel. Number 4, no men and women's sports. Number 5, no trans mutilation surgery for children. Look, I am actually more convinced today than I've ever been that the Save America Act will pass the Senate. We only have 50 votes, which means 2 things need to happen. They need to attach the SAVE Act to another must-pass bill and then invoke the talking filibuster. That's where we are right now. And the first part is easy. We just need to wait for the right bill to attach it to. The latter, though, convincing Thune to invoke the talking filibuster, that's a bit trickier, but we're hearing it's going to happen. Florida Senator Rick Scott, the man who should have been Senate leader, explaining today where we are in getting this done, the strategy to get this done. Roll the tape.
Now we have to secure elections. If you have to show an ID for almost everything in this country. Show an ID to vote. You have to make sure you're a U.S. citizen to register to vote. So I'm going to do everything I can.
What's holding it up? Because I agree with you, and most Americans do. 85% of Americans believe, yeah, we should have proof of citizenship before we vote. So what's holding it up then in the Senate?
One of 3 things. You either got to get to 60 votes. We don't have them yet. We only have 50. Number 2, you got to add it to a must-pass bill. And number 3, we got to do the talking filibuster. So we've got to do one of those 3 things to get this passed. The public wants this done. On top of Donald Trump wanting this done, the public wants this done. Every Republican, Democrat, and Independent needs to make sure they go vote for this. I ask everybody, call your senator, all of them, even if the people have been on board, say, you have got to get this done. And call every Democrat senator and say, if you believe in this country and you want safe elections, you have got to get this bill passed. And
So
guess
do you
what? If
expect a
you
talking
keep telling
filibuster?
everybody to do it, they'll do it.
Do you expect a
I'm all
talking
for it.
filibuster? You can't have a talking filibuster until the Department of Homeland Security is open, I'm told.
This is an 85-15 issue, a 90-10 issue even. That shows you, though, how little representation the people really have in the U.S. Senate. That body's supposed to reflect the American people. But there's a gap, a big gap. 90% of the people want this bill. Only 50% of the Senate, though, want the bill. That's a big gap in adequate representation. All right, that wraps up this episode. Like, subscribe. We'll see you real soon.